has been in existence for a long time. So even though Bitcoin was introduced only in 2009 and started trading in 2010, the concept of Bitcoin goes back to something called as blockchain. So blockchain as a technology was outlined way back in 1991, nearly about 30 years back. That was just a concept at that point of time. And that has actually led to the creation of cryptocurrencies and to what we see as a boom today. So why was it important? I mean, what was happening before and why was it important, right? So traditionally, the digital data that we are used to accessing today, they are stored in practically one location, one centralized location. So it could be on one server or multiple computers, but the data source is still centralized. And even if it is backed up to the cloud, for example, it could be backed up in multiple locations, but the central data source is just one. And despite the security protocols, despite the firewalls, despite whatever safeguarding mechanisms that we can put in place, it is still susceptible to the attack or change if you have the right tools and knowledge. And generally, we've seen processes like hacking where the data can be changed if you're able to get access to the centralized data. And blockchain in 1991 introduced the concept of immutable data. So that was the first time people heard that concept. And immutability is basically where the blockchain remains unchanged and you cannot alter the data, you cannot change the data. Once you've written data to the blockchain, it cannot be altered. That's it. It's done. And how does it do it? So as the name suggests, right, data is basically stored in a chain of blocks. So once you write a block, the next data is on top of the block and you cannot go back into the blocks and change the data. So that means that even if you get access to the blockchain for some reason, you cannot change the data. And that immutability presents the opportunity to store multiple use cases. I mean, it's not just a crypto, but it presents itself the opportunity to store value, which is in the form of cryptocurrency that we use today. And that immutability was also combined with another factor, which is the distributed and decentralized ledger. So it's not just the immutability of the blockchain, but it is also distributed and decentralized, meaning the exact same copy of the data is maintained in parallel to thousands of computers, and it's distributed and decentralized. And these computers, there could be anyone, like even my home computer, I could be attaching it to a blockchain, running a blockchain node, and my computer will be called a node in that blockchain network. And it is incredibly difficult to identify all the nodes and access them at the same point. So I use this analogy as an example to showcase or explain in simple terms what it means. Right? So if you imagine there is a billionaire who's using a traditional bookkeeper or one accountant to track his wealth on one ledger or one book historically, getting access to this one book or this one bookkeeper would mean that you can know what is the wealth of this person, and if you can subtly alter the ledger, you can basically take money off the businessman without him even knowing about it. And if you consider what is happening in the blockchain as an analogy, imagine there are 10 bookkeepers and the bookkeeper has a book which is pages cannot be torn, the ink cannot be erased, that once you write it, you have to basically write it to the next page. And imagine if there are 10 bookkeepers who are constantly writing their accounts in parallel, and the locations of where these 10 bookkeepers are unknown. So now you need to basically, one, get hold of these 10 people and find a way to change the data, which is not practical. And the blockchain basically is that they are now spread out across the world, that there are like hundreds of these bookkeepers writing the data at exactly the same time. That if you want to even get hold of them, that's virtually impossible. And even if you locate them, you need to find a technology where you could change the data. And that's what makes blockchain and the decentralization so attractive to store value or store currency values. And one of the disadvantages of traditional banking has always been that it is susceptible to change. I mean, like when IT systems change, I work in IT and especially in enterprise apps. One of the biggest disadvantages that whatever the safeguarding the bank can do, because the data is centralized, there are days where that data is lost or is altered. There have been days in UK, for example, where people have gone to the bank only to find their bank balances have been wiped out to zero because of an IT error. And it had to be reverted back to the old database or the old copy of the data and brought back. So All of those things are virtually impossible in distributed ledger and in blockchain. So let's just look at the timeline of crypto and the key events, right? Let me know if I'm going too fast or too slow. Okay? I'm not sure if the space is okay for everyone. And what I've also done is at the end of the session, kept a small time for having a Q&A if people are interested. But stop me if I'm going too fast in this session. So the timeline of events, or the timeline of crypto, the key events that we talk about, right? There are several key events. I've just picked out some events that, in my view, have changed the course of the history in crypto. So in 2008, many people would have heard this name, Satoshi Nakamoto. So Satoshi Nakamoto is an unknown person or an unknown group, and they wrote or published a white paper for using blockchain to create the world's first cryptocurrency. This was basically a protocol for cryptocurrency. And this protocol was implemented in 2009, and the world's first cryptocurrency called Bitcoin was born. And it was very hard in the beginning days to convince people to run the Bitcoin protocol on their computer. So people had to be coerced into running their or lending their computers to run the blockchain. Like how we did peer-to-peer file transfers, this was basically peer-to-peer computing at that point. So people who lent their computers for running this blockchain protocol and enabling this blockchain protocol to function, they were rewarded with a small amount of Bitcoin. And that process of rewarding people for lending their computers or lending their computing power to enable this blockchain mechanism, that was called as Bitcoin mining. So even today, one of the questions that I get asked is like, can you do Bitcoin mining now? The computing power that was required in 2009 was very, very small, that you could practically run it with a home computer. Any configuration would have done. But today, you probably need more advanced configuration than our home computers. And there are literally warehouses full of computers that are, the whole entire business is to do Bitcoin mining, and we cannot compute with that kind of infrastructure. And the electricity needed, the power needed to Bitcoin mining today is huge. So that grew in 2010 when a few hundred people, after a handful of people had started, a few hundred people, and slowly it became like a few thousand people started joining the network and started earning Bitcoin. And that's when a lot of people got this Bitcoin through this rewarding mechanism. And the first recorded transaction was allegedly the pizza chain accepting 10,000 Bitcoins for 2 pizzas. And that was 10,000 Bitcoins. And probably the joke goes around is that this is the most expensive pizza ever in the world at about 47 lakh crores. You can practically buy pizzas for the entire state of Tamil Nadu, that I used to say. During that point of time, after we found out what the value of those 2 pizzas were. So in 2011, the growth started by multiple companies or multiple entities started taking donations of Bitcoin as payment. Like, the WikiLeaks, for example, was one of the biggest site that was taking donations in the form of Bitcoin instead of the fiat currency like dollar or rupees. And in 2012 is when the first known crypto exchanges or providers started selling and buying Bitcoin. So that's when you could practically exchange it for cash. Till that point of time, for the first 2 years, it was merely a bartending system where you give Bitcoin and you get a service or goods back. And it changed in about 2 or 3 years in 2012 when the first exchanges and providers started selling and buying Bitcoin. And Coinbase and many of the commonly heard oldest Bitcoin exchange or crypto exchanges were born probably at that point in time. And one of the key events was in 2013, where a developer named Vitalik Buterin, he introduced a blockchain network and a platform called Ethereum. And in 2015, the Ethereum network and the Ethereum virtual machine platform went live. The Ethereum network, in my opinion, was a bigger spark than Bitcoin, and we'll probably see it in a few minutes later. But Bitcoin in 2017 touched its peak value about $20,000, and there were hundreds of cryptocurrencies already by this time. And then it became a bubble at that point of time where people were buying into Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies without understanding what they're actually buying into, and the hype was too much during that point of time. And that's when the big crash came in cryptocurrencies, where in 2018, the beginning of 2018, within a few days, practically all of the cryptocurrencies lost their value for nearly about 70%. And slowly but steadily, people understood what cryptocurrencies were in the next 2 years. A lot of new use cases were established. A lot of value chains were established. And the different use cases meant that people now understood how to use cryptocurrencies better, how to use blockchain better in the first place. And like I said, the Ethereum virtual machine also played a big role in cryptocurrencies, in the adoption of cryptocurrencies. So in 2020, the concept called decentralized finance picked up. We will talk about decentralized finance a bit later, but that's practically an expansion of the peer-to-peer finance lending and an automated protocol to make the decentralized or make the peer-to-peer lending and peer-to-peer financing much, much better, eliminating the middleman layer. That's what decentralized finance did. And in 2021, most of you would have probably heard about this term called NFTs, which are non-fungible tokens. Again, we'll talk about it in a bit more detail later. So the use cases of these have grown rapidly today, and it's ever expanding. And like I said in the beginning of the meeting, every day the new concept is coming in, and every day the use cases are growing more and more rapidly than ever. So, like I said, why is the Ethereum virtual currency or the Ethereum protocol important or more important than the Bitcoin? Bitcoin was a single blockchain protocol. It was a single cryptocurrency. So, Ethereum was a platform, or rather, it was an ERC20 protocol or a standard for how to create cryptocurrencies, and also enabled the developers to write their own cryptocurrency tokens or to create their own cryptocurrency tokens, piggybacking on the Ethereum infrastructure. So what it meant was that you did not need to have a separate blockchain network. You did not need to have a separate validation nodes. You don't need infrastructure. You can piggyback on the Ethereum infrastructure on the ERC20 protocol, and you can deploy your own cryptocurrencies on the ERC20 standard. Was there a question?
Please mute others. Please mute your mics.
Okay.
Yeah. Excuse me, Mr. Marikar. Mr. Marikar, please mute yourself. Hello, Mr. Marikar. Mr. Marikar, please mute your mic.
If you're an administrator or anyone who's an administrator can probably mute that. Oh.
Professor?
Sure, Professor. I will look into that.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I continue, to give an analogy, right? So what it meant was that if Bitcoin was a mobile operating system that only operated on their own mobile, like the Nokia operating system that many people would have not known that Nokia had an operating system on their own. And Ethereum was like an Android operating system where any developer could go and create their own app and post it in the App Store for usage. So you did not need to create a separate mobile operating system just because you wanted to create one app. So similarly, if you wanted to just create one cryptocurrency, you did not need to create the entire protocol or the entire infrastructure again. And that's the biggest use case, or that's the biggest change that Ethereum brought in, which enabled people to create their own cryptocurrencies much, much easier. And this also enabled the use cases for crypto and value. If anybody had an idea to create a cryptocurrency, if anybody had a use case to use cryptocurrency for something else, now they were able to deploy it and write it and create it much more easily. And that's what changed the game in cryptocurrencies. In general, Ethereum played a big part, more than Bitcoin. If Bitcoin played a part in the value adoption, Ethereum played a part in the use case adoption, I would say. So one of the biggest questions that I I keep getting asked is that what gives the cryptocurrency its value, and it's a very interesting and fascinating question, because in most cases, or in many cases where the cryptocurrency is created just for the purposes of creating value and nothing else, it's just people that collectively agree that there should be a value for these cryptos, and Bitcoin is a perfect example. And these days, people would have heard about these meme coins like Doji and SafeMoon and other coins. So this is a collective agreement. It's a collective agreement. And it's a slow process, but once enough people have acquired an asset and they all agree to make that asset a valuable commodity or a valuable asset, the asset becomes valuable and it does bring value to it. And today there are many different types of assets that do have an intrinsic use case, but it doesn't need to have an intrinsic use case. If there is a collective agreement, the value basically is brought to the entity. And a lot of cryptocurrencies are created only for the purpose of creating value. And however we can ridicule the meme coins, they are also making money. I mean, Doji was created as a joke in a few years back, and was explained as a joke that there's no value, there's no use case for this cryptocurrency. But because of the adoption, today the cryptocurrency is valued almost like thousands and thousands of percentages more than what it was in the beginning stages. So one analogy that I give, and it's a very controversial analogy, is that we can also ask the same question on many of the valuable assets. And one of the most famous assets in human history is gold, right? So there are a lot of investing definitions for gold. And if you actually go to some of these investing definitions, the most common investing definition finally summarizes saying that gold's value is a social construction. It's ultimately a social construction. And it's valuable because everyone has collectively agreed that gold has been valuable and will be the future, and it's a tangible asset. That's the analogy that people give. And gold is a scarce metal, but it's not a rare metal. And in fact, there is one interesting study where the choice of gold to be used as a store of wealth was basically down to elimination of periodic tables. So if you take the 100 plus elements in the periodic table, everything got eliminated because of chemistry, and eventually all that remained was just silver and gold. But this is a controversial topic, but I just wanted to bring that analogy just to spark your thoughts that even though we can call gold as a stable asset, unlike cryptos and other assets, the price of gold had fluctuated so much in the last 10 years, where the per ounce price almost went up to nearly about $2,000 at one point and fell about 50% in a span of few years. So again, this is just an analogy that I give sometimes just to spark thoughts about why do we value an asset when we don't need to value it. It's a collective agreement that forms it. But today, like I said, there are use cases in cryptos. And that's what makes it different. So broadly, the cryptos can be classified into some of these use cases or some of these token types. So we have transaction or currency tokens that we talked about, where it serves no other purpose, but it's created in purpose to serve as a monetary value, like Bitcoin, like Dogecoin, for example. There are security or asset tokens, which technically represents a real-world asset. Could be a tangible or a non-tangible assets. In fact, NFTs are a form of these security or asset tokens. And there are utility tokens, which are like, for example, XRP, X-Rapid protocol, which is used for cross-border transfer. We used to transfer across the borders, like one of the professors said, where it used to take days, but now it takes like minutes or even seconds. And that's enabled by cryptocurrencies in the backend or blockchain in the backend, where previously one fiat currency, for example, if you're converting from USD to INR, USD will probably be converted to GBP, GBP will be converted to EUR, and there'll be like at least 5 or 6 bounces before it finally reaches the destination currency. Today, it can all be converted into one cryptocurrency like XRP, for example, and then XRP can be converted to the destination currency in one go. And all of these transactions can be done in like 2-3 seconds, where you end up doing cross-border transfers much easier. And these are the utility tokens that are serving behind it, and that's where they get their value from. And then there are governance tokens, where to govern a blockchain, to make sure that, what are the updates that you can do to the blockchain, improvements that you can do to the blockchain. The governance is controlled by who's owning enough of these cryptocurrencies, and Maker is probably one of the examples where, for governance purposes of a blockchain, you have separate cryptocurrencies. And we have this concept called reward tokens, where you can reward users for using something, or for using a product. Like Brave browser is a product where, if you see the advertisements, we see advertisements in Google, in Chrome, and in Edge browser. But if you use the Brave internet browser, for viewing those advertisements, you get rewarded. So for doing the task that we generally do without any cost, today the rewarding mechanisms have been enabled through cryptocurrencies, where you continue to do the same task, like just watching an advertisement when we are browsing, but you get rewarded for that in a cryptocurrencies, and those are the reward tokens. And we also have the exchange tokens or platform tokens. I mean, strictly speaking, these are again governance tokens, because they are governing the platform, or they're governing the exchange that is running those tokens. And Binance Smart Chain, or BNB, is a perfect example of a platform token or an exchange token. And we also spoke about WRX, WazirX's own exchange currency. So we have another form of tokens, which is called stable tokens. And again, stable coins, strictly speaking, you can call them either as a currency token or as an asset token. But I'm calling it out separately because they are collateralized by the equivalent of real world money. So, for example, if you hold $1,000 in a bank, you can collateralize and create a stable coin called Tether, for example, today, USDT, which is equivalent to the real world currency. And a lot of institutions have started accepting these tethered, collateralized cryptocurrencies as real fiat. I mean, it's almost equivalent to real fiat. A lot of companies around the world are using it. And this year, Visa cards, for example, have started a payment system where, if you are able to convert it into the asset token or the stable coins, they are able to accept payments, and they're able to make payments using a Visa card. So anywhere, universally, wherever Visa is accepted, you can go and make payments, and the merchant doesn't have to accept blockchain or cryptocurrencies. Visa will take care of the infrastructure behind it. And that's enabled through concepts like stablecoin. So, more like most financial assets, right? I mean, you guys are MBA students, but the two important factors to consider for a value of a cryptocurrency before you invest is obviously the market capital, and is also the available supply or the total supply. Because there are some cryptocurrencies that have an infinite amount of supply, and there are some cryptocurrencies that have a fixed supply. So the scarcity of an asset makes it more valuable. So in some cases, they can also have deflationary or inflationary supply, and that's very, very important to understand. So for example, Bitcoin has a total supply of 21 million. That's it. There can be no more Bitcoin beyond that point. And once it reaches 21 million, there cannot be any more Bitcoin mining possible after that point in time. And that scarcity, that there are only 21 million Bitcoins in the world, makes it more valuable. That scarcity gives it more value. And today there are cryptocurrencies that have only a limited supply of like 10,000 or 15,000 even. There are cryptocurrencies that are even more scarce than Bitcoin, trying to create value by having scarcity around the world. On the other hand, you have cryptocurrencies which are deflationary or inflationary. For example, the DeFi coins, in the DeFi space, there is a famous coin called Cake, which is from Pancake Finance, which is one of the biggest cryptocurrency decentralized exchanges on the Binance Smart Chain. And it doesn't have a fixed supply. Coins are minted on a daily basis, which means that the supply is continuously going up. And they try to tackle this inflation by creating coin burns, where they are burning coins on a daily basis, just to make sure that the inflation doesn't become too much. And when you, the concept of burning is basically destroying the coins, destroying the currency, like how we make currencies invalid, right? So you can make that in crypto also by sending it to a dead address. Once you do that, once you destroy the cryptocurrency, that means that you're reducing the supply. And so If the point in time reaches where the amount of burn is exceeding the amount of new coins that are being created, then you create a deflationary currency where the supply is reducing on a daily basis. And that's what happens with some of the meme coins that you would have all heard about, like SafeMoon, for example, is a deflationary currency where for every transaction that is made around the world, a small percentage of the cryptocurrency is burned, which means that every transaction around the world is reducing the supply continuous basis, and that's a deflationary currency. So that's what makes these new meme coins like SafeMoon, for example, more attractive to people, because they think that it is going to become scarcer and scarcer over the world. So let's look at a few of the use cases, right? So I have slides separately for decentralized finance. I don't know if time will permit, but decentralized finance, we will talk about it separately, and non-fungible tokens also. I have another slide. There are a few other use cases that we haven't touched upon. For example, gaming tokens. So Engine Coin, for example, introduced by Samsung, where we would have all done in-game purchases, and we would have all spent real-world money to buy these artifacts inside the games. And Samsung introduced the concept of Engine Coin, where you could actually use cryptocurrency and blockchain to make these purchases. And these are the innovations that are happening in use cases right now. And the tokenization of a service, which is again another big concept, where you provide a service, and to get value out of this service, you put a value in terms of the cryptocurrency associated with the product. So for example, there is a price feed, an Oracle price feed called a chain link. And the chain link, it provides a price feed, a real-time price feed to all of the other blockchains, including Bitcoin, including Ethereum. And they charge, or they make value out of their product by creating a cryptocurrency called Link. And if you want to use the price feed of Chainlink, then you basically pay in terms of Link, and that creates a value for Link. So if you're providing a product and you're saying that if you want to buy my product, you have to pay me in one particular fiat value or one particular asset, that asset will become more valuable over a point in time, because there is a use case and there is a transactional value that is being created out of the service that you're offering. And that's what the tokenization of service means. And again, the tokenization of data is growing on a daily basis, where the data that we share with the multitude of companies like Facebook and Google, that's all being shared and it's all being sold without our consent in some cases, with our consent in some cases, where we just click on this accept all button without even reading what it means. But what it means is that we are sharing our data for these companies to make money from it. And the tokenization of data is now changing the world, where we can get money or we can get rewarded for our data. So anywhere anybody is using our data, we can get reward. On the other hand, if you want to store the data, if you want to make our computers available for storing data, we can also get value out of the tokenization of data that we are storing. So there's multitude of use cases that are growing on a daily basis. So Oracle that I spoke about, right? Why is it important, or why is it growing? Because blockchain, despite its advantages, it has one big disadvantage. It is immutable and it is unchangeable and it is distributed, but it cannot read or it cannot interact with external data on their own. So, and then the concept of Oracle was born. This is not the Oracle of the database. This is Oracle as a mechanism in cryptocurrency, where it allows the blockchain to interact with the real world external data. So, for example, if there is a world event that is happening that should impact the prices, the blockchain is immutable and doesn't know about this data or this interaction, right? So Oracle as a concept or a mechanism was created to provide this interaction and to provide this external data. And the famous examples that I talked about are Chainlink, PAN protocol, ZAP protocol. These are all creating value by providing this service to all of the blockchains and inherently creating value for their own cryptocurrencies. And DeFi, I have separate pages, like I said, but I'm not sure if we will go into that in detail. But decentralized finance is a contract that is established automatically between two parties without the need for a financial institution or a legal institution. Like today, if you want to have a personal loan or a home loan or anything, basically, You need to provide collateral, but you also need to sign pages and pages of documents. Like anybody who would have taken a loan would know the amount of process that are involved behind it. Sometimes it could take days. Obviously, today with digitization, some of these processes are done online, but even then the processes take days. And these are now being overwritten or changed with a concept called smart contracts, where the smart contracts are written in a matter of seconds using blockchain. And that's the most disruptive fintech concept today, or probably in the last decade, where you could go and apply for a loan in the blockchain. You could collateralize your asset. You could provide Bitcoin or any other crypto asset that are accepted as a collateral, and you can borrow money. So you can. There are a lot of lending platforms today where you can use your cryptocurrencies that you hold as a collateral asset, and you can borrow money. And that essentially, that whole agreement is created through a concept called smart contract, and it's done in a matter of seconds. And this is also kind of expanding into multiple smart contracts, not just limited to the collateralized lending, where a lot of corporate companies are now going and enabling their contracts using smart contracts as a mechanism, where the value of smart contracts, the value of money that was involved in smart contracts about 2 years back, 2 to 3 years back, was roughly about 15 crores, about 1.5 million pounds. And today, in a matter of 2 years, the value of the smart contracts globally, this was again data taken the beginning of the year, and it has grown rapidly from that point to now. It's about 5.5 billion pounds, which is nearly 55,000 crores. And the money is enormous. I mean, we are talking about people not necessarily going to a traditional financial institution or a legal body, and they're creating a financial contract using blockchain and using the smart contract mechanism. And that money is again growing rapidly, like I said. And again, the tokenization of data that we talked about already. So non-fungible tokens, like I said, right, this is probably the biggest boom of this year in 2021. So in 2020, if we can call 2020 as the year of decentralized finance, 2021 has practically been the year of NFTs. So what are non-fungible tokens, or NFTs? It's a digital representation of the ownership of any tangible or non-tangible asset that can be transferred or sold to anyone. What does it mean? I mean, like, for example, I don't know, people from my era would have known the online games like Clash of Clans, and people today would probably be playing more of Fortnite and those kind of games. But you would have all bought like in-game items like weapons and skins and all of these things. These were bought for a different purpose, obviously for entertainment. But once you buy it, these cannot be sold or exchanged. These are non-tangible assets that you own, but you cannot sell it. With the NFTs, these are being now converted into an asset or a non-fungible token that can be transferred, bought, sold quite easily. That it adds more value to it when you buy it or when you purchase it. And one of the most interesting use cases for non-fungible tokens have been artists. Previously, when an artist needed to sell their painting, they needed to have access to the auction houses, to the galleries where they're able to portray their work, or music artists, right? They needed studios to be able to buy their work, or they have to put it on YouTube and rely on the advertisement revenue income. But today, what they're able to do is that using NFT as a concept, they are able to create a non-fungible token representation of their work, like a painting or a music or an artwork, and they're able to sell it. Even a photo, I mean, even if you take a wildlife photographer, for example, if they're taking a photo, they can create that photo as a non-fungible token, and they can sell it on the internet quite easily. And recently, one of the paintings which was sold as a non-fungible token sold for nearly about more than $50 million, and that was an exception. But in many cases, you can get thousands of dollars for these artwork. There were always people willing to take ownership of these kind of paintings and art. I mean, art collectors, why do they buy art, right? There's no reason. They like the art and they buy it. And the expression of owning an asset that adds value for them. So they buy these assets. And like, for example, even today, you can pretty much listen to a music online, but why would you still go and have the privilege of owning an album or owning a CD or an album at home when you can listen to it at any point of time. That's what happens in NFT, where people are buying these artworks, these paintings, and this is enabling creators to get money or value out of their products quite easily. And these are the kind of use cases. People did not think about these kind of use cases about a couple of years back. And suddenly, it has taken the world by storm, the NFTs. And the future of NFTs could be anything. For example, practically, even owning any asset for that matter, you may not need a physical contract, you may not need a physical agreement document like we have now, where you have to register with a registration body. You could prove your ownership that you own this asset, including a house or any other asset for that matter, by just saying that you have a non-fungible token representing that house. And that cannot be faked, that cannot be duplicated, that can be easily validated and verified. And that's the advantage of having a non-fungible token, that the ownership can be easily proved that you own that particular asset. People can always take a copy of a photo or a copy of a painting, but the original painting or the original artwork, in NFT terms, it belongs to you. That's what NFT allows you to do. Again, it's a huge concept from an NFT perspective, and you can probably, if you try and understand it more and more, you'll understand why NFTs are actually being talked about. So, how do you start cryptocurrency trading? I mean, we've talked about all this. We've talked about the opportunities in the use cases, but how do you do it, and what do you do to start your cryptocurrency trading? So, like your people who've done share trading, your business school students, you would have all heard about share trading. So, like all your online investments, you can pretty much buy and sell cryptocurrencies instantly on crypto exchanges and wallets. And like your shares, like your commodities, the value of cryptocurrencies can be tracked online in price charts, that global price charts, and you can track it pretty much against any currency. But generally, the value is pegged to the dollar, and then you can translate that value into your local currency as well. I mean, I can track it in pounds, you can track it in Indian rupees. Anybody can track it in any local currency in their place as well. But generally, the global price charts are published in dollars with an equivalent translation or a conversion given. And like in India, we talked about WazirX. There are hundreds of crypto exchanges that have been established in India after the RBI ruling last year. And again, there are about more than 10,000 cryptocurrency coins today that you can buy and you can trade in. So there are, how do you use the cryptocurrency, right? Okay, I've bought it, but how do you use it other than selling it? So you can obviously sell it, and you can withdraw the money to the bank instantly, and you can just use the money just like any other application. Or if you want to actually use the cryptocurrency directly, there are a lot of crypto wallets that allow you to transact the cryptocurrencies either directly if the merchant is accepting it. There are a lot of countries in the world that are legalizing the acceptance of cryptocurrency in merchant cases. And you have specific devices where you can go and transact, or you can go and buy and sell using those devices. But even without that, in UK, for example, if I have a Visa card, and if my crypto wallet allows me to use my cryptocurrency, I can go and pay for my groceries in the shop, and the crypto is instantly converted within a matter of 1 second. It's instantly converted into the local currency at that price, at that point of time. And the point that I tap my credit card or debit card, it is using my cryptocurrencies to convert it and make a fiat payment to the merchant. And it's all happening behind the scenes. So you can actually use your cryptocurrencies to go and buy milk and bread if you want to. And you can also use non-custodial DeFi wallets and decentralized exchanges, where you don't even need to rely on these exchanges. You don't need to rely on a central body. It's peer-to-peer trading, but basically taken to the next level using decentralized exchanges. Again, using smart contracts that have been written to enable it with a relatively safer medium than having to rely on a centralized exchange. So I have this appendix content where I wanted to talk about stable coins and crypto wallets, and also about decentralized finance in a bit more detail. But I want to take a pause, Dr. Srinivasan, and see if there are any questions that we want to answer before we jump into it. I mean, if there are no questions, then we can probably go into the appendix. But it'd be interesting to hear some feedback. Been talking for a while, so I just want to understand how much has been digested by the students, and if there are any key questions that people want me to cover.
Yeah, open to questions.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, actually, we have lots and lots of cryptocurrencies right now. But how do we classify that these cryptos are based on Oracle, or which one, or it is based on DeFi like that? How do we know about which cryptos are belong to this category like that?
I mean, by definition, the institution or the concept of these cryptocurrencies are known. So if you go and read about it, right? For example, Chainlink as an organization, the value that they bring to the cryptocurrency is the price feed, is the Oracle price feed that they bring, and they're quite clear about it. It's all published in white papers. It's all published in their manuals. So there's generally when a cryptocurrency is introduced, it goes through a phase which is called as like a testnet phase, where they are giving you examples of what the blockchain protocol is about, what is the value that they're bringing in. And if it's a DeFi coin, for example, it goes through a phase where they explain to you what the decentralized finance, or what is the value that they're bringing in terms of their uniqueness about the decentralized finance. And you can read all about it in their own websites, in their own Medium articles, in the crypto articles. There are a lot of, like how we have technology articles and finance articles. For crypto, there are separate websites and separate journals that are available where you can go and read about it and all the upcoming new cryptocurrencies. But once a cryptocurrency is established, a lot of review happens of that cryptocurrencies, and you can go and read about the technical reviews, the in-depth reviews about what Oracle is, or what Chainlink is, what Band is. And for example, there's computing technologies like Band and Oracle. You can go and read about the differences that Oracle and Band brings, and why is one Oracle better than another Oracle. So there's a lot of information that is available online, publicly available online, on many of these cryptocurrencies, with the exception being the social coins or the meme coins, where they are literally created with no purpose, like SafeMoon as an example. Right? It was created with absolutely no purpose. SHIB is another coin, Shiba Inu, which was created with no purpose. So even if you go and read about it, all they'll tell you is that the coin has just been created for value and there's nothing else. But even that gives you clarity. They are being honest about it, saying that that's it. It has no other value, no other use case. We've just created it as a social coin, as a meme coin, to try and create value for it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
No problem.
Hi, Anand.
Hello.
Hi. Anand, maybe just before starting, like, maybe you are the only one which I am into crypto right now for past few months now, and maybe you're the biggest motivator. And I have just two questions for you. I keep hearing that the coins are getting burned, and they're trying to do it in millions. But my question is, if, for example, today, last night there was a note saying that WazirX, they are going to burn so and so millions of coins. So right now, is it a good time to buy such coins, considering they're going to burn and the supply will go higher? I mean, the supply in terms like the price of the token will go higher as the coins are burned. Right now, for example, it is like around 80s, or it is in terms of INR, it's running around with 83 or 84. After the coins is burned, I could see there is a drastic fluctuation in the amount, but people are buying more coins and it may reach 120 or 130. And by the time everyone has got the coin, and again it fluctuates down to around 70, 75. So I think probably the people whoever has got at 120, 130, they still have to wait again when it reaches the peak. So my first question is it a good point that if some coins are burned prior, we have to buy such coins? That is on first question. And on the second question is on the certic. Whoever has certified such cryptocurrency coin, I can see a big list where in general, the coins are getting demolished completely because it is not completely certified as per their norms. At least it should range between 80 to 100%. But such coins doesn't meet their demand, and such coins are being brought to zero. So it means that should we pick such coins where Certic is actually saying that okay, this coin is having 90%, so we are good with those coins. So we have to target such coins. So these are my questions, Anand.
Okay, very interesting questions. Thank you, Sunil. First of all, with coin burn, right? The expectation is that when people are reducing the supply, with the reduction in supply, the demand grows, the supply-demand mechanism, right? So that's the expectation always, but it's not necessary that it can always happen. And it has to be we have to be very, very careful about this coin burns, where it doesn't necessarily mean that the supply is going to get reduced. Like I talked about deflationary and inflationary coins, right? There are coins which don't have a limited amount of supply. There are coins that are created on a daily basis. That's the way in which the protocol has been written. It's called as an emission, where every day new coins are created. So if they're burning, let's say, 5 million coins on a daily basis, but they're creating 7 million coins on a daily basis, there's actually 2 million coins that are getting created additionally every day, and it's not reducing the supply. But your question about WRX is very valid, where they are burning coins on a quarterly basis and they have a fixed supply, which means that the total supply is always going to keep coming down and down. The expectation is that yes, when these kind of events occur, it triggers the sentiment and triggers the value of the coin to go up slightly. But it's unpredictable. I mean, the whole thing about crypto is that the prices are unpredictable. I mean, I even say in some of my videos that while you can use charts and candles to compare shares and other traditional commodities, from a crypto perspective, none of these charts or candles have seen our work. Even though people try and keep posting about the charts and the candles, right? So it's very unpredictable, the prices. So you can never say that it's for certain crypto coin burn or a reduction in supply is definitely going to increase the value. It all depends on the world markets. It all depends on how the other cryptocurrencies are doing, and it depends on a number of factors. So a regulatory change in one country, for example, like there was a news about a potential India ban, which was not true, but that kind of caused a panic and caused the market to slide. And a few days back, Binance was in the news, where the UK Financial Conduct Authority they had banned one of the subsidiary entities, but the news was that Binance got banned, and that impacted crypto. So there's several sentiments that keep impacting crypto and the prices. So it's not guaranteed always that you can rely on the coin burn to be an indicator for the price. And then coming to the CertiK audits, right? The CertiK audits are more for decentralized finance, because for decentralized finance, the smart contract is essentially a computer program. It's a computer program that is deployed on an EVM like Ethereum virtual machine like blockchain protocol or blockchain platform, where it is automated and it is supporting the decentralized finance. Which means that, for example, if somebody has set the fees as 4%, all that the auditor is doing is that they are checking the ability of the developer to suddenly change it from 4% to 20% or 30%, where they're able to increase the fee without any forewarning and without any governance mechanism. That's what the auditors are doing. And these are technical audits. And CertiK, again, CertiK is an organization that we use, is one of the world-renowned organizations in doing blockchain audits, and it's able to understand technically what a smart contract needs to be written, and they have a list of safety factors that they can go and validate against a smart contract to say that, okay, this is relatively safe and you don't need to worry about some of the impact that it could cause. And if you don't look for proper certification in decentralized finance, in one of my videos I explained where they could be rated by an auditor who's not renowned, who's probably like a few months old and is probably not a very good auditor. And if they don't use reputed auditors like Certic, then they can do something called as a rug pull, where one of the recent decentralized platforms called Polyyield, they changed the fee structure from 3% to 100% within a span of minutes, and literally everybody lost money. And that wouldn't have happened had people waited for Certic audits to happen and make sure that it's safe enough to invest in those kind of cryptocurrencies or invest in those platforms rather. So yes, Certic is probably one of the top auditors, but there are also some other good auditors, and it's always useful to wait for those kind of audits before you invest in these kind of platforms.
Thanks, sir.
Yes. Hello, sir. First of all, congrats for your silver button. My question is, what is the difference between staking versus farming with respect to crypto? Also, how to decide on which option to choose between these two?
Okay, that's an interesting question. So staking is a concept where you are putting your crypto into it could be a centralized exchange, it could be a decentralized exchange, and they give you interest on top of it. Like, so you could be staking a single asset. For example, you could be staking like Link as an asset, right? And they could give you an interest for staking it because they are using your asset and they are able to trade with it. Like, this is more akin to putting your money into fixed deposit. So if you put a money into fixed deposit in a bank and they are using the money to lend to other people and earn money, and they are rewarding you with a small percentage or small reward percentage. So in banks traditionally for fixed deposits you could get up to, like, I think in India you could probably get up to 7 or 8% these days. In UK you probably get up to like 1% or 2% return of investment on these fixed deposits, where the bank is actually using your money and making money, and then they are rewarding you in turn. And that's essentially what staking is, where you're using your or you're lending your cryptos to the exchange itself or putting it into a fixed pool, and then they're able to use that and make money out of it. In traditional terms, farming is where you are actually providing liquidity. So in decentralized finance, what liquidity means is that you're providing two assets. You're providing the ability for changing or converting from one asset to another. So for example, if I want to convert from Bitcoin to US dollars, I provide $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, I provide $1,000 worth of USD. And then you earn something called as liquidity fee, where for every transaction that happens, you are then given a small percentage, of 0.3% fees, which allows you to earn income. Basically, just keeping your money, you're able to get income out of your idle assets. So there is a lot of risk involved in liquidity mining or liquidity farming, because when you become a liquidity provider, there is a huge chance that you will incur something called as an impermanent loss. An impermanent loss is where one of the assets go down, another asset go up in quantity, and the asset that goes up in quantity has lost its value. So you provide equal number of quantity in dollar value to start with. So for example, you provide, let's say, 10 Bitcoins and you provide $1,000. Now suddenly the Bitcoin's value have gone up, so the quantity has reduced. So you have 5 Bitcoins and you have more dollar value, which is good because that means that you have got more dollar value. But if suddenly Bitcoin goes to 20 Bitcoins and the dollar value becomes 5,000, because you've been given, it balances in the liquidity pools. And it's very hard to understand impermanent loss. I had a separate video dedicated to impermanent loss. But essentially what it means that you could be losing money because the Bitcoin, now you have more Bitcoins and suddenly the Bitcoin's price drops. The amount that you've invested, you won't get back. You will probably get back the cryptocurrency that you've invested, but because of the change in the 2 tokens that you have invested or you have provided, you've now incurred something called as an impermanent loss. in order for you to avoid the impermanent loss or to balance the impermanent loss, farming is a concept where you can stake your liquidity tokens or liquidity pool tokens, and then you are rewarded additionally on top of the 0.5%, 0.15%, using this farming to balance your impermanent loss or to mitigate your impermanent loss risks. And that's what farming is. Again, staking is relatively straightforward. Staking with just one token is relatively straightforward, relatively safer, I would say. But if you're doing liquidity, if you're being a liquidity provider, and even if you're doing liquidity farming or liquidity mining, using these liquidity tokens, liquidity pool tokens, there is an inherent risk associated that even beyond the farming benefits and beyond the APY percentages and APR percentages, you could end up making a loss because of the impermanent loss or because of one token going higher and the other token not going as much higher. And again, you need to spend time to understand impermanent loss. In one of my episodes, I think in 24, I dedicated it to impermanent loss, where I had gone through the impermanent loss for nearly almost an hour. So once you understand the concept of impermanent loss, you will understand the risk behind farming and the benefit behind farming.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
No problem.
And there are two more who have raised their hands, Mr. Suresh and then followed Mr. Ajay.
Yeah, hi Anand, Suresh here. So I have two questions. So one is, can Bitcoin be replaced with a better technology, fixing Bitcoin issues like the power consumed for mining and the slowness in transactions? And what will happen if all the Bitcoins are mined and when it reaches 21 million? And will the price keep going? There should be a control, right? The price can't keep moving as it likes. So it looks more riskier, investing on Bitcoin. So,
yeah, I mean, definitely. Is that the question, or do you have anything else?
Yeah, one more to add to this. Will governments regulate cryptocurrency? We are hearing a lot of news on that, and they're planning to introduce Fedcoin or GovCoin. So if that is done, what will be the how this crypto market will progress after that?
Sure. I think the first question is very valid, wherein Bitcoin, the power consumption has been a huge concern in recent times. Especially, one of the biggest setbacks in the last few weeks has been the fact that China has started enforcing the restrictions on power consumption by banning the cryptocurrency mining. The power consumption needed in fact, I had dedicated an entire episode to the power consumption of Bitcoin. Power consumption of Bitcoin can practically power an entire nation. I mean, like countries like Finland, for example, the entire country's yearly power consumption is lesser than the power consumption that the Bitcoin mining network uses today. So that's how much energy consumption that Bitcoin uses. And it's not necessary. It's just because one person wants to do it faster than the other person that they do something called as an increase of hash rate on their computers, which increases the power consumption. And when one person is increasing the hash rate, another person is basically increasing on top of it, and it becomes like an auction mechanism where they are just competing for the reward and increasing their energy usage. And especially in countries like China, where they were relying in those areas for non-renewable energies, that's where it was becoming a problem. But I think this has been actually good, because now what it has meant is that the focus has shifted into those countries where the Bitcoin mining centers or the mining warehouses are running more on renewable energies like solar and other energies, which meant that the usage issues, the power consumption issues, is actually coming down and down, because once the shift moves from China to other countries, it becomes more and more concentrated on renewable energies, which is good for the whole ecosystem. But the fact that Bitcoin is about 18 million mined now, and there's only 21 million total supply, so there's about 3 million still left. When will we get there? That's a big question, because it's not going to happen anytime soon. It could be years before it could happen, because what it's going to mean is that as and when we move closer to that 21 million, it's going to become difficult, more and more difficult to get more Bitcoin as a reward mechanism. The hashes are going to become difficult. So it may not be that another few years, or maybe many years, that we will reach that full Bitcoin mining. There's always going to be that Bitcoin rewards that are going to remain, but it will reach the end state at some point of time, and it could be replaced by another currency or another crypto that is more viable at that point of time. So I even said in one of my videos, there's no reason why Bitcoin cannot go to zero, because other than serving a currency, it doesn't serve any other use case or purpose. But again, with the focus on cryptocurrencies, and with so many people now owning Bitcoin, right? So it will still retain its value. It's not going to go down to zero. But the advantages of Bitcoin mining will reduce. The advantages of the rewards that you get from Bitcoin mining will reduce. And then those nodes will then shift focus to other cryptocurrencies, more lucrative cryptocurrencies, or more lucrative mining opportunities. Second question about regulatory framework, right? Crypto is getting more and more regulated these days. I mean, for example, in UK, cryptocurrency comes under the capital gains tax, where a lot of countries have established very clear rules around the taxes that you need to pay on cryptocurrencies, and the capital gains tax that you need to pay on cryptocurrencies. And also, one of the famous misconceptions about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies is that they can be used for illegal transactions. They can be used for all sorts of illegal activities, money laundering and everything. In fact, cryptocurrency and blockchain and Bitcoin are probably the last asset that you would want to use for money laundering or for these illegal activities, because, like I said, the blockchain enables traceability, that you can eventually trace all transactions, and all transactions are on public distributed ledgers that can trace back to a wallet. So even for the scams that happen, people actually isolate and find out the wallet or the wallet addresses, and they are blacklisted, that they cannot transfer any longer. So it's pretty easy to track them online. So it's not like a bank account where it's secure, or you don't know the transaction. You don't know the identity of the transaction, but you can practically trace the transactions a lot better. The visibility and traceability in blockchain is much more. So there's definitely more regulatory framework that is needed in the space, for example, like decentralized finance, where rug pulls of these software audits that I talked about are common. But I don't see them necessarily replacing the existing technology. It will only augment and supplement the existing cryptocurrencies, the existing services that are provided. For example, I don't see in the near future another service that is going to be a government-regulated service coming and replacing something like a chain link or something like a band. For example, even if the government introduces a social media platform, right? A new social media, regulated social media platform. Twitter and Facebook and those social medias, established social medias, are still going to continue to function. They still have their value. So it needs to coexist, it needs to supplement, not completely replace. That's how I see the regulatory frameworks.
Thanks, Anand.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Sir, hello. First of all, thank you for a great opportunity to learn from your YouTube channel. I am just teen now. I am learning lot and information about crypto today because of your video only. And I am proud that you are from Tamil Nadu also. That you are giving more and more good information and genuine content for us. Sir, I have 3 doubts, sir. First of all, what are the thoughts you are like to tell about Cardano, the ADA coin, that are maybe the prediction is going to be $100 in 5 years. It is a great asset that have our team was discussing about it. And one other thing is, sir, you mentioned that Matic token is going to be much better than Pancake in the recent videos. That I have still confused about that. If we provide in liquidity, which is better, Pancake or Matic? Then SRP and Bitcoins. In SRP, in this case, that already SRP have 44 billions in the in the
Escrow.
circulation, and there is left for 54 billions in the team. SRP team has left, and Satoshi Nakamoto, the Bitcoin founder, also had 1 million Bitcoin left from here. So in case of they are dropping all the currencies at a period, there is a chance to be market crash. So what about that scenarios?
Okay, I'll try and answer briefly on some of the questions. So, for example, Cardano's price prediction. So, price predictions are always to be taken with a pinch of salt. In fact, more than a pinch of salt. It's never certain that a cryptocurrency is going to reach a price point. These price predictions are practically glorified wish lists that people wish that these coins need to go up in value, or because they have invested in those values. And that's what it is about. It's a good concept, and a lot of good concepts. Like for example, many people predict the price of Chainlink to be $100 or more, and they are more glorious wish lists. They are predictions, but they are practically more glorious wish lists. There's no certainty that in 5 years' time or 10 years' time, this technology is going to be valuable this much, and specifically put a dollar value against it. Then the next thing is with regards to what was your second question? Sorry.
Sir, which is better, Pancake Swap or Matic?
Right.
The Polygon
Polygon.
technology.
Yeah, so Polygon it's a fantastic story. It's actually one of the Indian stories that I really like about cryptocurrency, where in 2017, when everybody was worried about the Bitcoin prices and the cryptocurrency prices and the cryptocurrency price more than the development, the Polygon team, previously it was called as Matic, they invested in technology, or they started the startup company for investing in technology, and started writing a layer 2 alternative to Ethereum to avoid or to improve on the challenges that Ethereum had faced during that point of time. And that's the greatest success story of today, where Polygon have single-handedly created the world's best ecosystem for decentralized finance in terms of their Matic offering, in terms of their Polygon network, which is, to explain easily, Ethereum kind of paved the way for decentralized finance, where we can go and run our own smart contracts, and it enabled the way for us to run these smart contracts and get decentralized finance. But it was heavily congested, it was slow, it was cumbersome, it was expensive to do one transaction. It used to cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And Polygon, with their technology, with Sandeep Nailwal, who's the founder of it, the team of developers from India, they wrote the side chains, elastic chains, the layer 2 algorithm for Ethereum, which changed the way in which cryptocurrency or decentralized finance should work. The cost, the scalability, and the speed of the network, everything was drastically improved. And that's what led to the success of Matic, where it shot up this year. I, in fact, had tweeted about it much earlier about them, and then they shot to fame once their mainnet and once their smart contract capability went live. Today, there are thousands and thousands of DApps, decentralized apps, that are written on the Polygon network. To compare Pancake and Polygon network is like comparing two different good ecosystems. Like is the Apple operating system better, or is the Android operating system better? One is not going to replace the other. Both are good platforms where they're enabling developers to write an Apple app, or for the Apple ecosystem, or for the Android ecosystem. So it's kind of it's going to coexist in my view, and I don't think one is better than the other. I mean, personally, these days I feel Polygon is better because the fees is slightly cheaper on the Polygon network compared to the Binance Smart Chain. Hope that answers the question.
So my third question is, if SRP and Bitcoin, in the terms of SRP, the founders have a lot of SRP left in here.
Yeah, so that's always a possibility. I mean, the XRPs, Ripple Corporation, which owns XRP, they have nearly 55 billion XRP left in the escrow. And programmatically every month, a portion of it is released into the market and then re-released back into the escrow. Escrow is like the vault that they have. So that is always going to impact the price at some point. But Bitcoin, I don't think there's that because the volume is still very low, and as compared to the amount of XRP that is still in the escrow, Bitcoin's the holdings are negligible comparatively. Do we have any more questions?
Hello, sir. Yes, I do have.
Yes, Arun.
Yeah, the first question is like you said in previous video that Matic is developed to resolve the problems caused in Ethereum network. So what if Ethereum 2.0 released, and what will be the scenario and what will be the price prediction of Matic? Will it go down or will it get?
So that's again very difficult to say. I mean, Matic Polygon has already established an early mover network or an early advantage, right? So it has already solved a lot of problems that Ethereum was trying to solve with their Ethereum 2.0. Even if Ethereum 2.0 comes with their improved solution, I don't think it will replace Polygon because there are thousands and thousands of dApps, decentralized apps, that have already been written for the Polygon sidechain. It's no longer a sidechain. Polygon is, at this point, Polygon and Matic are no longer sidechains. When it got established, like Loopring and like all the other ZK protocol, all the other L2 wannabes, they were also at one point of time called a sidechain. But Matic is no longer, Polygon is no longer a sidechain. It's an ecosystem of its own. So I know it exists on top of Ethereum, but even when Ethereum 2.0 comes into the picture, it's only going to supplement Ethereum, and it's only going to be still required at that point of time because the adoption rate of cryptocurrency is growing so rapidly that you really need more and more providers. Like this is saying if there was one fiber optic cable provider in India providing better internet, doesn't mean that there is no need for that fiber optic cable provider, one BSNL or once the actual telecom provider starts service on their own, it's only going to supplement and coexist with each other. That's my view.
Thank you, sir. And the second question is, I used to do day trading, and I have a portion of my amount invested for long term, and few portion is for daily trading. So, will it be the better option to do day trade, or should I need to go for long term trading? Say, for example, I have around $200 invested, and I'm approximately getting $2 to $3 per day. Is that a good benefits?
Again, these are calculations that you probably need to do just to see that on the long term or the short term, when is the return of value going to be equal to your investment, or the liquidity provider risks. You need to understand, is it offsetting your impermanent loss and your risks that you have been taking? It's very difficult to say whether it's good or not. I mean, for me, what would be a small value, what would be a good value would be different to somebody else because of the currencies that you've invested in or the cryptos that you've invested in terms of the liquidity pools.
Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Sir, you mentioned in second video that you put 20 pounds and take 3,000 pounds and more. Which kind did you invest that 20 pounds?
That means people are not watching the video fully because I explained it in that video itself in the end. It was an Oracle-based crypto called Zap. And in that video, I explained what Zap was about at the end of the video. Should we take more questions, Doctor, or how are we doing on time?
I think it's
Sir, why Zap is not in listing in the Indian exchanges, sir?
Which one? Oh, Zap, because the adoption is not there yet. So they are still in their development phase. They're still in 2.0 in the development phase. Probably once their full products are out in the market, the adoption will increase. Once the adoption increases, then the other exchanges will increase. But that's one of the things about centralized exchanges, right? That previously the reason why a centralized exchange will list a currency has always been about adoption. So the more adoption a cryptocurrency has, or the more people talk about a cryptocurrency, then the famous exchanges will list those cryptocurrencies. Like why did SHIB and SafeMoon and why did the SHIB, for example, why did it get listed so quickly? Because of the adoption, because of the people power, because of the number of people who are talking about it. So that's the same for most cryptocurrencies on centralized exchanges. The more adoption that happens, the more popular it becomes, then more exchanges will start listing it. And that's true for most currencies in centralized exchange.
Sir, last question,
Yeah.
sir. How can we know about the coins that going to be listed in Binance or Wazirex? That in Binance or Wazirex, when the new coin is listed, it's going to be peak like 100% or 200%, then more and more. How can we know about the coin are going to be listed before some investors going to invest in?
I mean, if you follow some of my tweets or follow some of my videos, right, I've given a lot of references to crypto journals and crypto magazines and crypto articles, Medium articles. And Twitter is again a great space. Twitter is probably one of the spaces where you get to hear about news as and when it happens, and much quicker, directly from the horse's mouth. For example, you can follow Binance, you can follow Wazirex, you can follow all of the industry leaders like Sandeep Naywal and all of those industry leaders in crypto, Indian industry leaders and the world leaders of crypto. And they announce in Twitter or in those crypto journals whenever there's going to be any change. So and you can even follow their own Medium articles or their Medium web pages for their blogs. So for example, Zap write their blogs on Medium articles, and you can go and read about them. And that's how you get to know. You need to basically be active in the crypto media. Like if there's somebody who's following shares and stocks, right? They read magazines, they read newspapers like Financial Times, and they follow the news articles on finance-related web pages. So same way, you can always track and follow the news and what is happening in crypto on a daily basis. And it takes time. It takes time to read through all of this content and read through all of these news articles, all of these journals, and follow people on Twitter. That's probably the easiest thing to do. Follow the right and relevant people on Twitter, not necessarily people like Elon Musk, who does tweet about crypto, but it's more of sentiment based rather than data or content based.
I think we can take one last question if anyone has. Otherwise, we can close. I think it's great time for him. Yes.
Yes, Suresh here. Anand, can we buy Matic at the current levels, or we can wait for a correction to go below $1? It's currently 1.14.
Like I said, right, in my beginning of my video, I'm not allowed to give an investment advice. So I can't say that you have to buy this coin. I can only explain the benefits of the coin, the use cases of the coin, and why I think a coin is more valuable. So I cannot definitely say that you can go and buy a coin, or you can. That's an investment advice. So,
No. Since you're tracking, I just want to understand: has it gone up? Current prices are too high, or it's okay, or where are we?
I think it's relatively still early, in my opinion.
Okay, fine. Yeah, and one last question. Say in India, I'm from Chennai. So if at all they ban Geotas and Vesirex to support buying and selling cryptos, what are the other options? The P2P will still be available, or even will there be any problem for them?
Again, I think I dedicated an entire episode to the governance in India and what could happen, and it's again highly unpredictable, right? So in general, when these crypto exchanges are given time or they're controlled or regulated, there's always the option given for the retail investors to take their money out or take their crypto out or to move to another platform or a supported platform. So crypto exchanges are generally given 3 months, 6 months. But again, India is a country where we demonetized currency, fiat currency overnight. So you never know what could happen. But recently, our finance minister, Nirmala Sitharaman, she has indicated the need for regulating and not controlling or not banning cryptocurrency or these exchanges. So there's billions of dollars that are staked in Wazirex and these cryptocurrency exchanges. So it'd probably be a huge shock to the economy if they are banned overnight. But again, you always have the option of moving to decentralized finance if the regulation is only controlling cryptocurrency trading in these centralized exchanges, like what RBI tried to do in 2018. And the Supreme Court ruling in early 2020 was that in a democratic country, you cannot ban or unilaterally provide restrictions on these kind of technologies. But that doesn't mean that a new law could be drafted in the parliament where it says that any form of cryptocurrency could be completely banned. Like there are some countries where they've taken the extreme approach to say that you can't even hold cryptocurrencies, and those are practically extremist nations where they've done that. That's like literally less than 2% of the countries in the world have taken that extreme step. If we do take that kind of an extreme step in India, which I believe is unlikely, then even holding cryptocurrency or using decentralized finance could be difficult at that point of time. But I don't think we are moving to that. We are moving probably to the Western world where they've adopted to it and they've regulated it and they've embraced it rather.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
So shall I invite the student for proposing vote of thanks? Hari?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, please.
So first of all, I would like to thank you because this concept was a bit new for me, and I have learned so many things about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. Even I was one of the person who had a misconception about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, but now you have explained it beautifully in a way that you have intrigued me to look more into cryptocurrency. So on behalf of our students, I would like to thank you for spending a valuable time with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And once again, Dr. Srinivasan, thank you, and the Chancellor as well for giving the opportunity for this wonderful session and the ability to interact with the students. So somebody had asked a question on the chat. I will share this presentation of the PowerPoint to Dr. Srinivasan and the professor, and they can share it with the students if they want to see the presentation.
Yeah, so there are quite a few guests, so they can contact me. For the PowerPoint.
Okay, that's your email.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Anand, and it has been a wonderful session. And thanks a lot, guests. You have made the day great because a lot of interactions were there. And thank you so much. The students have gained a lot, and I think all of us, of course, still we have a lot of doubts, but then, this is something, it has cleared, your session has cleared a lot of our doubts about cryptocurrency. And we hope, this cryptocurrency is well accepted and maybe a great source of alternative asset. So, alternate asset, I'm sorry. So thank you so much, Mr. Anand, and thanks, Gus, for joining.
Thank you everyone for participating again, and thank you for your time as well, listening to me.
Yeah, we will catch up
Thank
in
you.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Anand.
much.
The next session, and we will hope to catch up for more, a better way of engaging each other. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.